a PDF of the Quran with some translation also. So I'll share the Quran app actually, so we can read at the same time, and then also everyone can see the translation when we're looking at that right after. So let me start playing my video. Okay. So can you guys see the Quran app?
Yeah, we can see the Quran app.
Okay, perfect. So I guess we can start. I think I don't know who was here last year, but Assalamu alaikum. My name is Umair. Studying at Berkeley. I'm a junior, and then Hamza is also going to be just talking a little bit. Yeah, we both go to Berkeley, and I think we can just start off with. I can read Surah Fatiha, and we can just walk through the translation and try to reflect on it a little bit, and then I think we can read probably Surah Rahman and go from there. Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. So Surah Fatiha is essentially, we can read the translation, and then I can walk through a little bit of my understanding, my reflection of it, and I think like everyone else can just honestly jump in and go from there, right? So of course, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. I think mercy is key here, right? Every time we're reciting a surah, we're just starting with just like how merciful Allah is, right? So I think, yeah, and Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, all the praises and thanks be to Allah, the Lord of Alameen, Al-Alameen, the mankind, jinns, and everything that exists, right? Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Again, mercy is, again, I think key here, right? Because it's repeated multiple times already. Maliki Yawmiddin, the only owner. And in some translations, actually, it's mentioned that the king, right? The king, the one who rules all, the king of everything and anything that ever exists. And the king of the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah, the day of resurrection. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, right? So you alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. I think this is key, right? Because especially for me, for example, I've been studying for finals, right? And so it's important to always realize that you can only ask Allah for help, right? You can't ask, you're not going to email your teacher, and of course you can ask for help for learning the actual content, but you're not going to ask your teacher for help for actually doing better, right? It's important to keep in mind who you're asking for help from, and then guide us. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, so guide us on the straight path. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. So guide us on the straight path, the path, the way of those on whom you have bestowed your grace, not the way of those who have earned your anger, such as the Jews, nor of those who have went astray, such as the Christians, right? So to guide us on the straight path, the path of those who follow your grace, or who you've bestow your grace on, and not the path of those who have gone astray. I think when I was younger, one of my teachers actually had us memorize Surah Fatiha and just drill into us the habit of just like reading Surah Fatiha at the beginning of every day, right? If you're starting off your day with these key things in mind, then obviously, like, inshallah, nothing can go wrong. I think we can also read Surah Rahman. I think there's a lot of key things we can take from Surah Rahman. So I'll go ahead and pull that up. And then we can also, but if anyone else has any other things that they want to mention regarding Surah Fatiha, or anything that they found useful, please feel free to jump in. And if not, then I can just go ahead and read Rahman. Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن علم القرآن، خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. الشمس والقمر بحسبان، والنجم والشجر يسجدان. والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان، ألا تطغوا في الميزان، وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان. والأرض وضعها للأنعام، فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام، والحب ذو العصف والريحان. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار، وخلق الجان من مارج من نار. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ رب المشرقين ورب المغربين. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ مرج البحرين يلتقيان، بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ يخرج منهما اللؤلؤ والمرجان. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ وله الجوار المنشآت في البحر كالأعلام. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ كل من عليها فان، ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ يسأله من في السماوات والأرض، كل يوم هو في شأن. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ سنفرغ لكم أيها الثقلان. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ يا معشر الجن والإنس إن استطعتم أن تنفذوا من أقطار السماوات والأرض فانفذوا، لا تنفذون إلا بسلطان. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ يرسل عليكما شواظ من نار ونحاس فلا تنتصران. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ فإذا انشقت السماء فكانت وردة كالدهان. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ فيومئذ لا يسأل عن ذنبه إنس ولا جان. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ Sadaqallahu al-Azim. So I think Hamza is actually trying to get back into the meeting. If Shakil uncle, I think if you're the host, I think I think he's letting me know that he needs someone to admit him to the meeting.
I am the host. Let me check. Yeah. Okay. I just got him in again.
Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah. So I think we can again. So I read half of Surah Rahman, but if you, it's honestly up to you guys. I can finish reading Rahman, or we can walk through the translation and do some reflection. Whatever you guys think is best. Okay, so we can walk through the translation of Surah Rahman as well, so I can pull that up. Okay. So again, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Okay. I think so. Hamza's mentioning that his audio isn't working. Is there a chance that maybe there's admin blocks on the audio, or
there is no block. His audio looks on, but he's not coming through. Is his video coming through?
yeah, I think his video. I can check. I think his video is coming through. I actually put the toolbar away. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think his video's not showing up either. That's weird.
Yeah, maybe we should go off and come back. It's probably his connection.
Okay. Let me see if he can hear us. Let's see. Oh, Hamza. Okay, so Hamza can hear us. Hamza, we can't actually see your video, and we can't hear you either through Zoom, but I guess you can hear us. So that's interesting. I'm gonna try to stop sharing for 1 second and see what's going on. Yeah, Hamza, because I can see your lips moving, but I can't hear you. Really weird. Let me try. Try rejoining, Hamza. I know you just tried that, but
Umair, can you hear me? Umair.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, sorry. In the meantime,
Umair, can you start? Umair, can you start Surah Rahman's?
Okay, so Ar-Rahman, the most beneficent, the most merciful, Allama al-Quran, in a seat of truth. So, for example, paradise, near the all-ruling King Allah, the all-blessed, the most high, the owner of majesty and of honor, right? Sorry, I was going the other way. So, Ar-Rahman, the most beneficent Allah, has taught you, mankind, the Quran by His mercy. Khalaq al-insan, He created man, and He taught him eloquent speech. So, Ash-shamsu wal-qamaru bi-husban, the sun and the moon run on their fixed courses, exactly calculated with measured out stages for each reckoning. وَالنَّجْمُ وَالشَّجَرُ يَسْجُدَانِ, and the stars and the trees also pray. وَالسَّمَاءَ رَفَعَهَا وَوَضَعَ الْمِيزَانَ, and the heaven He has raised high and He has set up the balance. أَلَّا تَطْغَوْا فِي الْمِيزَانِ, in order that you may not transgress or disbelieve. وَأَقِيمُوا الْوَزْنَ بِالْقِسْطِ وَلَا تُخْسِرُوا الْمِيزَانَ, and observe the weight with equity and do not make the balance deficient. وَالْأَرْضَ وَضَعَهَا لِلْأَنْعَامِ, and the earth He has put for the creatures. فِيهَا فَاكِهَةٌ وَالنَّخْلُ ذَاتُ الْأَكْمَامِ, and within the earth there are fruits and date palm trees producing fruit stalks and dates, and essentially supplication and food for all humans. وَالْحَبُّ ذُو الْعَصْفِ وَالرَّيْحَانِ, and also corn with its leaves and stalk for fodder, and sweet scented
Omer,
plants.
can you hear me? Omer?
Then which of the blessings of your Lord will you both jinns and men deny? So I think this is a really popular ayah, or it's a pretty well-known ayah, and of course it's repeated multiple times in Surah Rahman. After it's repeated like every other ayah for almost like 1 or 2 pages, right? And I think this is really powerful because it's just talking about all the bounties that we have, even being able to, for example, like speak or see and hear are all bounties that we should be very, of course, like grateful and thankful for. And I think that's what a lot of people maybe like don't realize nowadays, and that's why a lot of people are just not as happy with their circumstances, right? With what they have.
Omer, can you hear me?
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار. He created Adam, or humans or man, from sounding clay, like the clay of pottery. So we were essentially created from clay or dirt, and that's what we'll also return to, of course, right? So we should always keep that in mind. And the jinns he created from smokeless fire, right? So smokeless fire. And which of the blessings of your Lord will you, again, jinns and men both deny, right? So this ayah is repeated multiple times. Rabbul Mashriqaini wa Rabbul Maghribain. He is the Lord of the 2 easts, places of sunrise during early summer and early winter, and the Lord of the 2 wests, places of sunset during early summer and early winter.
Hamza, you were trying to say something?
So yeah, I don't.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Whoever's name I found on the chat.
So, I don't think Omer can hear me.
Not able to hear you. Let me see.
Umair, can you hear us?
I don't think Omer
So
can
Shakil
hear
uncle,
you.
can you hear me or?
No, we can hear you very well, but it looks like you are not able to hear us.
Shakil uncle, are you able to hear me or?
We can hear you, Umair. It looks like you are not able to hear us.
Okay, okay, I think I can see your, that's so weird. I'm gonna rejoin just 1 second. I'm gonna exit the chat and then rejoin.
Okay.
Shakil uncle, I think it might have been because Omer was sharing his screen. That may have had to do something with how we couldn't hear you.
So yeah, he dropped off. So maybe when he rejoins, Hamza, can you start meanwhile?
Sure. So I don't think I can share my screen since I'm on my phone. So I think in the meanwhile, before he joins, I'll just give a quick introduction on myself. So
Yes.
Omer mentioned, so I'm also a senior right now at UC Berkeley studying computer science and data science. And Omer and I, we've given like many melodious Quranic recitation classes in the Bay Area. We've given at masjids such as MCC, at ISB or Lowry, and many other masajid in the Bay Area. And then we've kind of like aimed to target the audience of middle schoolers and high schoolers because we feel like they can benefit the most from a lot of this. And we noticed that Shakil uncle, you also provided us with a lot of questions or a lot of topics related to Ramadan, right? So we can definitely cover that afterwards. I think that's on the agenda after Omer covers Surah Rahman and the meaning. So is that kind of what you also want to hear too? Like a lot of Ramadan related things?
Yeah, mostly the focus should be on why the 5 prayers are important. What is the importance of the 5 prayers? What is the importance of facing the Kaaba, and how the worldly things will impact the youth? And so that's the topics why we should be close to our religion and pray 5 times. You know, some of the things are very important, especially as a youth. It matters a lot when you are trying to understand what is there involved in it.
Sure. Okay. So let me ask Umair if he's joining soon. Otherwise, I think I can get
Why
started.
don't you start? Why don't you
Okay.
start?
Yeah, so I can actually hear you now, Hamza. So yeah, continue, bro. Just continue. I was listening.
Okay, perfect. So Umair, does it not allow you to share your screen and hear Shakil Uncle and the rest of us?
So let me try resharing.
We can share, yeah. We can see your screen, Omer. We can see you as well as.
Yeah, so can you see the Quran app and everything now?
Yes.
Or?
Yes. Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. It's working. Okay.
Yeah, so sorry about that. I guess you guys were probably
No problem. So why don't you give Omer? Why don't you give an overview about Surah Rahman and then proceed to the topics, because I think the topics are very important for the youth.
Definitely. Yeah, so I think so I don't know if you guys can hear me earlier, but the main theme of Surah Rahman, like 50% of the ayahs are just فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, right? So that's the key takeaway right there. It's very like clear cut and very simple. And the actual translation of فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ is so then which of the blessings of your Lord or which of the favors of your Lord of Allah will you both jinn and men deny, right? So obviously the jinn part isn't applicable obviously to us. We're not worried about that. But this is, I think, a really powerful ayah, and of course it's very, very popular, very common, commonly used in talks and everything, but it's still very important to reflect on the importance of it, right? So I think I mentioned earlier, like the importance of gratitude. Like that's my takeaway from I guess the key ayah of Surah Rahman is that we have, like, we're able to see and hear and even like talk, and we have technology and we have so many things, and it's important to just keep that in mind and be thankful and be grateful, because I mean, like, if we are grateful, then we'll just keep getting more and more bounties from Allah, right? So that's the key takeaway from Surah Rahman for me. And then Hamza can also touch a little bit on that, and anyone else can jump in, like if you have anything that you want to mention.
So I just want to touch upon that a little bit. Umair, can I get a thumbs up if you can hear me? Perfect. So in addition to what Umair said, that was a great, excellent summary. Thanks for that, Umair. In addition to that, I think when Umair mentioned both jinn and man, like which of your Lord's favors can you deny? So I think it's important to realize that we should be so grateful for, not just things we see around us, but there's every single thing that exists in the universe today is something that we should be grateful for. And it's to the point where a lot of humans think, okay, humans are the only, kind of beings to be grateful, but jinn as well, and even like animals and plants as well, everything should be grateful to Allah. And just when we see this ayah, then we start like realizing that jinn also have things to be grateful for as well. The fact that they're alive, the fact that they can move around freely, the fact that they have strength, right? So this kind of opens up our eyes to like the extra human perspective, right? Outside of humans as well. So it just really allows us to realize that us humans, we're not the only beings on this earth, and everyone should be thankful to Allah, because without Allah, obviously, like, none of us would have anything to do. So I think it's important that Jenner mentioned there too, right? It's just to allow humans to get the extra perspective. So I think, Umar, since we're done, maybe we can move on to some of the topics that should go.
Yeah. So let me actually let me try to share the slides that we had. Let's see. So are you guys able to see this, or?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we just read Fatiha and then earlier, this was just from last time, we talked about our most popular qaris, but we can move on to like the why Islam, why faith, right? So Shakil Uncle mentioned it would be a good idea to touch on, like, we're talking about like reading Quran and listening to hadiths and like praying salah and reading Quran and all that, but like what's the point? Like, why even, right? Obviously, if there's no use in something, why would you do it, right? Obviously there has to be an end goal. Anyone with any common sense is going to ask why, and it's totally okay to ask why. Islam literally encourages us to ask questions. If you're wondering why you pray 4 rak'ahs for Dhuhr, and I don't know why you pray Dhuhr like silently and then Fajr out loud and stuff, there's explanations for every single thing, right? So it's actually really interesting. It'll actually encourage you to pursue like Islamic and Dini studies more if you ask questions. So it's totally okay to ask questions. So I guess like just a little bit on why Islam, why even following faith, right? So I guess on a more general level, it's important to understand that, of course, scholars always mention deen, and deen over dunya, and the importance of realizing that. Okay, one good example is just that we're travelers in this dunya, right? So if when we're visiting Tahoe, I put the example of visiting Tahoe. So when we're visiting Tahoe, I've heard this example multiple times. If we take a rest stop in whatever city on the way to Tahoe, and we stop at a gas station or whatever, we're not going to get invested and just start building a house there and start making friends there and just start living at that gas station, right? We're only there for a couple minutes, maybe for like a whole hour if we want to take a longer break, but eventually we're going to move on. We're only there to take a break and do what we need to do, maybe get gas, get food, whatever, and just move on, right? So I think that was the best example that I heard growing up, which just showcases the importance of not getting too tied down by dunya, right? So keeping the hereafter in mind, and working towards that. And then Hamza, you can touch a little bit on that. Wait,
Yeah, 100%. So you mentioned that on the way to the Tahoe trip, Umar mentioned that there was someone on the trip that told them that their final destination, their main goal was to get to Tahoe, right? Whether it be for skiing or whatever, but that's like their goal. So why it just doesn't make sense for them to, just camp out at a 7-Eleven or spend hours there or really get to know everyone at the 7-Eleven or like any one of like the small pit stops, because that's not their main goal, right? So to like bring that analogy full circle, as Umar touched upon, in this life, our entire purpose is Jannah, right? Our entire purpose is to worship Allah in order to get Jannah and to have a successful time in the hereafter, right? So just keeping that in mind, this dunya, this world that we're living is just a means to the hereafter. So since we know that this is purely a means and not the end goal, why do we get caught up in just trying to only care about our career and nothing else? Why would we get caught up in trying to hang out with our friends all day when that's literally just like the means to the end goal? It's not even the end goal. It's just a small pit stop, right? The equivalent, so our careers are the equivalent of like a 7-Eleven that Umair stopped by just to get like water or take like a bathroom break or something very, very quick, right? So I think it's very important to mention that Islam truly gives us an end goal. And I think I mentioned this in the last session too, where people who don't have Islam, they don't know that the end goal is like Tahoe, right? They don't know that the end goal is essentially Jannah and that there is a hereafter. They think that whatever is here on the journey is the main end goal. So they see a 7-Eleven, they see a Burger King, they see a McDonald's, they instantly get attracted towards it and they go in it and fully invest themselves as if there's no tomorrow, right? And I think that's the problem, because let's say you just go in McDonald's, you order stuff off the menu, go to the bathroom, and then you just start camping out there and say, hey, I want to work here, I want to live here. When that absolutely will do nothing for you, right? It will never let you get to your destination. And essentially, in a sense, your entire purpose is now useless. So I think that as Muslims, we are all so fortunate, so lucky to have been told and believe that there is some true meaning to this life. And every single thing that we do, including, praying salah, which we will cover very shortly, is us really reaching that end goal. And I think it's very, very important for children to understand that, because, the earlier you understand it, the better. Later on, when you get into your 20s and your 30s, all of your friends are going to be asking you this question, especially if they're non-Muslim. Hey man, like, what's the purpose to this, man? I'm making so much money. I've been, just living with my parents, working a job, but I just don't know what else there is, right? They just don't know what else is there besides that routine of just working 9 to 5 and coming home and just hanging out with friends, just spending time with the family. What's the purpose for that? For us, we know, as Muslims, we know the end goal. We know that everything is a means to the end goal. So when we work with the intention. We can turn everything to ibadah. Remember that. We go to school or do internship with the intention. I'm going to show people that Muslims have, pursue excellence. I'm going to show people that, Muslims can do great work. And then guess what? Your work turns into ibadah. You do the same thing at school. I'm going to get A's on my exam just because acquiring knowledge is sunnah in Islam, right? And Islam encourages the acquisition of knowledge. So that's why I'm going to school. And that's something turns into worship. So now you have your internship or your work and your school as worship. And then guess what? You hang out with your friends, which is like, let's say that's your last activity of the day before you go to sleep. And when you hang out with your friends, you show very good character. And you show them, hey, by the way, I'm Muslim. If they're non-Muslim, I'm Muslim. And yeah, like this is what Muslims do. And you just like show them that you're excellent in everything. So basically throughout the entire day, at work, at school, and like with friends, you're essentially showing excellence and you're essentially showing what a good Muslim is. And that's all counted as worship if you have your intention that way. And what happens when you're worshiping, all in different settings, but still worship, you're eventually going to reach your end goal of Jannah, inshallah, right? So as Muslims, we should just be so thankful and so blessed similar to what Ar-Rahman tells us to be thankful for, that we have the opportunity to reach Jannah, not just in salah, but in everything we do in life. Salah is a direct connection, direct conversation with Allah, right? We're aware of that. It's very easy to have the correct intention there relative to having the correct intention while you're taking exam, right? How many people think of an exam as I'm doing this for Allah, right? So I think it's very, very important to keep that in mind. And if you are keeping your intentions straight, then you're never wasting your time, right? Because it's always worship. So I just wanted to mention that. And Omer, do you have anything to add? Omer, do you have anything to add? Or
No. That was, yeah. Jazakallah. That made sense. So yeah, I guess that's like an overview of why Islam, why even follow like everything that we're talking about, right? And then I think we'll move on to so okay, so now we know why, or we understand maybe the importance of implementing deen in our lives, right? So then how do we do that? So of course we're all probably familiar with the 5 pillars of Islam, but I think like the key here, again, like Sheikh Uncle mentioned earlier, is salah, right? Of course, all the 5 pillars are extremely important, but salah is the pillar that you have to continuously make sure that you're keeping track of, right? You have to ensure that you're praying 5 times a day. And then fasting, we fast once a year, essentially, mostly, right, in Ramadan, and then of course we do some like sawal and some nafil fasts, but essentially we're fasting generally just those 30 days of Ramadan every year. But the salah, I think, is key because it's what's going to keep us centered. It's what's going to keep us balanced. It's what's going to keep us honestly sane during the year, right? So I think one key thing to realize is a lot of people think of praying 5 times a day and it's too much, right? They're like, oh, it's going to take like 10 minutes per salah, and then there's like 5 salah, and that's like 50 minutes, and it's like it's spread out throughout the day, and I'm going to be at work or at school or whatever, and it's really difficult. But it's really important to realize the story of the ascension, right? So when the Prophet essentially he visited the heavens, right? And the quick summary or the gist of it is just that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from my understanding, from what I remember from the story, he his people, or we, I guess, like we are his people, so we were assigned actually 50 salahs a day, right? So 50 prayers a day. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if I remember correctly, I think it was Prophet Musa that he spoke to, right, Hamza? I think it was Prophet Musa, and Prophet Musa told Rasulullah that his people, he said, Rasulullah, your people will not be able to handle praying 50 times a day. It's way too much. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam went back up to Allah, and he essentially bargained with Allah, right? And he said, please reduce the amount of prayers, and the amount of prayers was reduced first by 10, I think, to 40. So it was reduced to 40, and then the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, again, he went down the heavens, and he met Prophet Musa, and he said, oh, it's been reduced to 40. And again, Prophet Musa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that 40 is still too much. I know your people. I know your people will not be able to handle 40 salahs in a day. So again, the Prophet went up, and he asked for a reduction. And this happened multiple times. So I think there was multiple iterations, and essentially 50 prayers was cut down to 5 prayers, right? So it's important to realize that it's really not too much when we know the source or the origin of how many prayers we actually were prescribed in the beginning, right? So the Prophet actually bargained for us because he knew that 50 prayers, we definitely wouldn't be able to handle it, right? And yeah. And then Hamza, is there anything you wanted to?
Yeah, I can cover the second bullet point of the significance of Fajr and Isha. So also, Amir, you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. So I'm sure all of us have heard that the reward for Fajr and Isha, if you pray both of them, is the entire night, and if you pray one of the two, then it's half the night, right? So that in itself shows the significance of those 2 prayers. Speaking more in terms of the worldly significance, Isha it's a salah. I'm sure everyone has seen this growing up. It's a salah where everyone comes together. There's a very strong community involvement, community bond that's essentially established and strengthened at that time of the night, right? So it's a time that's a couple hours after Maghrib. It's a time where it's not too late. So a lot of kids have not went to sleep yet, and also it's not like early to the point where people are still at work. It's a time where everyone can come together. And of course we can't do this in the quarantine times, but Isha and Fajr are very critical, and not only like building community, but and also in establishing a routine, right? If you pray Isha every single day, then you know that you can establish a routine of not only of worship, but also sleeping at a certain time so that you can maybe wake up for tahajjud in the last third of the night, right? And when you wake up for tahajjud in the last third of the night, then you have that routine, and then you can also consistently wake up for Fajr as well. So I'd say the main thing is prioritizing these two salah by making sure that there are no commitments that come up to make you potentially not be able to pray it in congregation. It's very important to try to pray Isha at the masjid, or these days, since we're all at our house, praying Isha with like our family together, right? So we can build that communal bond that previously was there at these masajid, but now it's like at our house. In addition to that, maybe having like a really nice discussion that you can tie after Isha with your family, right? Anything related to the deen, I think that's very critical. And for Fajr, it's also very important to prioritize this. And this is something that Omer and I can also talk about when it comes to, at college. It's very easy to, for a lot of students to sleep through Fajr. So what Omer and I actually did is, because we wanted to make sure we didn't, only sleep through it, but we also like didn't miss it at all. And what we did is we actually kind of held each other accountable. Hey, Omer, I'll see you tomorrow at the masjid for Fajr, right? And he would say, yeah, I'll see you. So now we have that kind of accountability kind of relationship where if I don't go, then he's not going to see me there, and it's going to be like, hey man, you kind of broke your promise. So we did that with us too, and also a lot of other friends too. So we had a bunch of friends that would pull up to the masjid together. And again, number one, community was built there. With those friends, we're very close to them to this day, and inshallah we'll be close for years to come, right? That was built off of seeing each other at these two core salah. Community is number one. Number two is consistency. When we're not only up for Fajr, but we go to the masjid for Fajr, or we essentially make the extra effort to pray in a congregation, guess what? It's not a 5-minute salah where you just like wake up, pray, and you go back to sleep. You're more awake then. So you have the option to A, go to sleep, or B, stay up and study or do your daily commitments, or just make a lot of progress on whatever your full 9 to 5 commitments are, right? In fact, you can get a little head start and work 6 to 9 before the 9 to 5, and you can just finish your work early. That's something that Omer and I experienced, especially in finals and dead week where we're studying for finals, and there's just a lot of barakah in the time in the morning. That's one thing I want to mention. So at Fajr, it's very in accordance with the sunnah, where Prophet ﷺ would stay up after Fajr, and a lot of the Sahaba would also get a lot of important work done after Fajr. And this is something that's just beautiful. It's one of like the miracles of the Quran, miracles of the religion as well. A lot of scientists have they've done a lot of studies that show that the first 2 hours after you wake up are the most productive hours of the entire day. And after reading that, I did a little trick where I told a couple of my friends they told me, hey, I'm not a morning person. I'm just like one of those people that I get my most work done at the the nighttime. So 10 p.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. onwards. They're those people that just pull all-nighters. I told them, hey, just try waking up early. Let's see if we can get some work done, right? And they were highly productive. They actually were very, very productive in those first 2 hours. And then afterwards, you may get tired, you may get fatigued, you may get sleepy. But the main thing is that stuff's very real. And how do we know about those 2 hours? For us, we don't even, need all those studies. Those studies simply confirm what the deen tells us to do, right? The deen tells us to be diligent on all these 5 prayers. And if you do work in the morning, there's barakah in it. And I've noticed that so many times over. Whatever work I do after Fajr, alhamdulillah, I've been getting 2 or 3 times the work done at the rate that I would be doing after Isha when I'm just sleepy, and I should be sleeping early to wake up for tahajjud or Fajr on time. So I think it's very important, long story short, as a quick summary, to prioritize these 2 salah and make it so that you have a routine structured after it. So maybe sleeping right after Isha and then waking up a little bit before Fajr. So you can either do a little bit of dhikr or a little bit of tahajjud before Fajr time starts, and then after Fajr time starts, you pray Fajr and you essentially do a little bit of work then, right? And then maybe take a nap midday, right? Which is also sunnah, to do like a little nap around a little bit before Dhuhr time, for around 30 minutes, right? So I think that's it's really important to essentially have some routine where you structure around these 2 prayers. Very important. You pray both of them, you get the entire night's reward. You pray one of them, you get half the night's reward. And I think inshallah we should always use these as a good way to ground us, right? Especially in a time where coronavirus, our schedules are all over the place, meetings are all over the place. The distinction between work and our family life is just very blurred. I think it's very good to use, as Umar mentioned, our 5 salah to ground us, specifically these 2 salah. So hopefully that was a good explanation. And Umar, you can cover facing the Qibla unless you want to add anything.
Yeah. No, Jazakallah. That made sense, Hamza. And yeah, the only thing I would add is that if you're starting your day off with Fajr and you're ending your day with praying Isha, everything that's sandwiched in between that in your day, like what could go wrong, right? If you have an interview, what could go wrong? And if it does go wrong, like inshallah, it was for the best. So there was some khair in it, right? So if you're starting off your day with Fajr, only the best possible things can happen when you're literally starting and ending your day with salah and remembrance of Allah, right? And so in terms of facing the qibla, so why we face the qibla, I think, is actually, so a lot of non-Muslim people, actually non-Muslim friends, they a lot of times think that we pray to the qibla, right? So people have multiple times asked me why we pray to the qibla when it's just like when we don't believe in idolatry, but we pray I've had one guy tell me that you guys don't believe in worshiping idols, but you pray literally to like a brick building or like a box or whatever, right? Like like we're not praying to the Kaaba, but we're praying in the direction of the Kaaba and we're praying to Allah. And I think that the key, there's probably a lot of historical reasoning there's definitely historical reasoning for why we pray to the Kaaba. Like, of course.
So I can add one thing on that. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he also thought that the Kaaba was sacred. So it's been sacred since way, way early on, right? So
Yeah.
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam already had that in mind. So the Kaaba, it's not just like from that time. It's just been historically significant, and it's beautiful in that sense.
Right. And I think that the value in that in the Kaaba and why it's been so significant in the time of Islam since back then is because it just provides so much unity, right? Imagine if there was no Kaaba and Hamza was praying in like one direction and I was praying in like a different direction, and then we would just walk in and there would be everyone praying in like 40 different directions, and it would just like there would be no unity, no one would know what's going on, no one would like stand, and then so a lot of that unity stems from facing the Kaaba, right? So when we go to the masjid or when we're praying in Jama'ah, we face the Kaaba, the Imam is facing the Kaaba, and then all the people praying behind him are facing the Kaaba. Again, we know there's so much equality and everything in the Muslim Ummah because everyone is standing shoulder to shoulder, right? All the brothers standing together. It doesn't matter like how old they are, how young they are, whatever, what race, all that, right? So it's like the core of providing unity because everyone's facing the same direction. Everyone is standing together, shoulder to shoulder, and everyone is praying together. So how can there not be unity when everyone is one level, right? Everyone is at the same level. So I think that's the most significant reason for why we face the Kaaba. Yeah, and then if there's anything else you want to add, Hamza, or we can move on.
Oh, that was a great explanation. I just want to affirm what you said and say that everyone of every status, socioeconomic status, or even just like spiritual status too, like pious or not pious, everyone's standing right next to each other. It doesn't matter if someone's an executive or the other person is janitor, they're shoulder to shoulder and they have the exact same motions in salah and they have the exact same things that they say in salah. So that in itself brings us, it makes us very cognizant that we're all essentially going for the common goal, the same purpose, right? In order to get Jannah and just worship Allah, right? Nothing we have in the world really matters, right? It's just, we're all shoulder to shoulder in the end. When time for salah comes, we all prostrate, we all bow down to our Lord, and we're all equal in that sense. So I think that's the beauty. And it's very critical that we have one direction, and that's the Qibla direction. So we can move on now, Umar. Thanks for that.
I mean, Jazakallah. So the next thing we wanted to talk about is the importance of Ramadan, right? Of course, we're currently in Ramadan. It's been, what day is it? It's been like 7-8 days already, right? So today is actually like
we're on day 9 now. Yeah, exactly.
10th Tarawih, right? So essentially, it's important for multiple reasons, right? First of all, Ramadan is the month of the Quran, right? And as a Muslim, our life is just driven by the Quran and the Sunnah, right? So literally, like 1 out of 2 main things was delivered in the month of Ramadan, right? So we believe in miracles in Islam, of course, and the greatest miracle of Islam, I guess, or one of the greatest miracles of Islam was the Quran. And I mentioned miracle angel Jibreel because the month of the Quran in the cave of Hira is when Angel Jibreel actually brought forth the Quran to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And that's one of the so that's one of the best nights of Ramadan, and that's one of the nights I think that show up in the last 10 days that everyone is always trying to attain the most reward out of, right? So that's one key reason for why Ramadan, or I guess that's the main reason for why Ramadan is so significant, is because of the Quran. And that's why we actually try to maybe not right now, but usually every other year, we try to read the whole Quran in Ramadan, just because it is a sunnah, and it's important to revive the sunnah of reading Quran. Some scholars actually, so the traditional way of how they used to read Quran back then was 10 juz a day or however, but they used to do one iteration of the Quran every 3 days, right? And that was in general. And in Ramadan, there were some, I mean, I've been reading up a bit on some scholars that did literally like 10 rak'ahs, like after iftar, 10 rak'ahs, like some way like halfway into the night, and then 10 rak'ahs like before suhoor or maybe right after fajr. Literally, 10 juz, 10, not 10 rak'ahs, 10 juz, so 10, 10, 10. And they've literally done like a Quran a day and stuff like that, right? Obviously, that's very might be difficult for us to obtain, but we can shoot high, right? When we're learning to play basketball, we don't look at like some random guy in the street. We look at like, I don't know, Kobe Bryant, right? Obviously, we want to shoot high. So I think, yeah. And then I think, Hamza, you can, so talk about that. And you can also mention the importance of why we fast and just how much growth like is a part of that.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I think everyone can see your screen. So the first bullet point is to understand the pain of those in need. This is very critical. What this essentially means is the people that are hungry, Ramadan teaches us Muslims that can otherwise afford food on a daily basis to empathize with those that are hungry on a daily basis. And those people, they're hungry out of, not out of choice, but they literally, they have no other choice, right? And because they're that poor, they're dealing with this stuff. And when even if they're fasting these days, they don't have the ability to break their fast. So here's what I think where I think this is very important in terms of keeping this in mind. If we know that there's people that are on the other side of the globe that are constantly hungry every single day throughout the year, all 365 days, and we keep in mind that we're fasting in order to like really empathize with them, and this is how they feel. Wow, I should actually give more sadaqah, I should give more charity in the future, because those people really need it most, and that we're so privileged. If we keep that in mind, then all of a sudden our iman is going to get better, much higher, and we're just going to feel closer to Allah, right? Because we realize that, oh Allah, you've given us so much, them so little. Us fasting and like purposefully foregoing food is the least we can do. That mindset will instantly just make you just go to the next level. Whereas if you don't have that mindset, guess what? You don't even think about why you're fasting. You're just basically just starving. It's as good as starving, right? So it's either like 10 or negative 10, for example, right? So it depending on whether you have the intention or not, you can go very high, you can go very low. I think it's very important to always like empathize with people that are poor and that cannot eat, even when they want to eat. So that's the first bullet point. I think it's very critical. So thank you for putting that there, Omer. Second bullet point of how our rewards get doubled. This is very critical. Every good deed we do is doubled. As Omer mentioned, there are a lot of people that read a lot of Quran, and Omer mentioned some people do one entire Quran a day, right? They're just not doing this because it's like a random day out of the entire year, right? They don't do that every single day. They do this in Ramadan. They want the good deeds for every single letter that's read, right? Every letter of the Quran, 10 rewards, right? So they want that to just be scaled at a crazy scale, right? Which is why everyone is just picking it up. Not only in terms of reading Quran, people are paying more salah. People are being more altruistic and just selfless. People are giving more gifts to their family. People are being more respectful, and people are even more patient when someone is really like, violating them and just doing something that makes them feel very angry, right? We all have like, other people like trespassing on and just getting us angry, but we've been told, we've grown up knowing that this is the month where you should exercise patience. And again, every time you're patient, you already get good deeds, but now it's simply doubled. I just mentioned all those categories of good deeds, and inshallah, everything will get doubled. So we should continue to not only keep doing what we're doing, but also try to pick it up, because as soon as like the 30th day of Ramadan is done, it goes back to normal. So we want to really take advantage of this. And one important thing is keeping in mind that the rewards are doubled. It allows us to build a lot of good habits. Right now, we're motivated by that double reward, right? That times 2. After Ramadan's done, guess what? We don't have to suddenly stop all the good things we're doing. It's very easy for us to continue. We already have this momentum, right? Might as well just keep it going. And it's much easier if we start now, right? It's definitely not too late. It's only like day, 9 of the 9th fast. We can definitely get a habit started now. And for the next 21 days, we can keep it strong, and inshallah have it continue for the rest of the year. And by the time we hit the next Ramadan, we can pick it up even another notch and just improve ourselves in character and deeds overall, inshallah. So third bullet point, purification of yourself. This is very similar to what I mentioned, right? Improving your character and all of those different facets. You're essentially purifying yourself. And when you're fasting, here's the important thing. We're essentially, we think that we're doing a lot of things for Allah. Allah doesn't need anything that we're doing. Allah literally does not need it. Allah is the most powerful, the omnipotent, the all-knowing, the all-wise. You know, us fasting is not going to increase Allah at all, right? I'm sure everyone has heard this, but if everyone in the world got together and conspired together and tried to, you know, bring Allah up even one bit, no one could do it. But Allah is already like the maximum there is. If everyone got together and tried to like decrease Allah one bit, they couldn't do it, right? So we're essentially fasting to purify ourselves. And, you know, when we purify ourselves, we're going to purify ourselves both spiritually and just physically as well, right? We know that like Ramadan has been proven, fasting has been proven. Many studies have shown that we need a detox. Our body needs a detox from just eating at random times whenever we want, whenever we have the urge throughout the year. We need a detox occasionally. And a lot of non-Muslims simply don't get the detox. But recently, after these studies came out, people have been doing this keto diet. People have been doing intermittent fasting, right? They've been doing all these different fasts. And we're just so blessed to have been continuously doing that since growing up every single year for 1 month. So this is a purification for ourselves spiritually, since we're using that 2 times, you know, deeds kind of like to motivate us to do more good deeds. We're purifying ourselves from the, you know, I mentioned like the spiritual perspectives, also the physical perspective as well, right? I'm sure many of us have noticed that when we're not eating, our mind is actually more acute, more sharp. We can get more work done as well, right? There's also barakah in the time as well from that perspective. And we're also just purifying ourselves in like many other ways too, right? I can honestly keep on talking this for a while. Spiritual growth, very similar to like how we should constantly keep on trying to do whatever we were doing before, all the good things we were doing before Ramadan, but on steroids. Literally, we pick it up to the next notch. We look at things that our family members and our neighboring friends are doing. They're doing good deeds that we're not doing. We try to incorporate that into our schedule, right? We try kind of like making more space for things that are related to the deen, right? For different aspects of worship, and maybe deprioritizing and doing a few fewer worldly things, right? Because there's always going to be times, different times to do like different assignments and doing different tasks that we've always wanted to do. But we can simply do that after Ramadan. Right now, this is the time to prioritize that. And if we prioritize worship, trust me, this has happened to me many times, where if you spend 2 to 3 hours reading Quran in the morning, and initially you're going to have thoughts come to your mind like, oh, wow, I'm not going to get any actual work done today for my class or for my studying for my test. You actually get more done. It's crazy how much barakah is in the time, right? Never think of reading Quran and doing any worship as a burden or just a time suck up. Think of it as an investment. Umar can also talk about this as well, but it's always an investment. And lastly, personal growth. If you have spiritual growth, if you have physical growth, right, like physical detox, and if you also have just great family bonding time, all of this combines into just you growing as a person, right? You will literally have people noticing, like your colleagues at work or your non-Muslim friends. Wow, you've changed a lot, man. You seem like more calm. You seem more collected. You seem like you're on top of your stuff, and you even seem like you've been getting a lot of stuff done, like very productive too, like with your schoolwork. What's been going on, man? Right? And this is Ramadan, and inshallah, may Allah allow all of us to have everything I mentioned manifested in our life and immediately start happening, and allow us to always give our best effort, because it's not too late at all to start any of these habits. It's day 9, and we can instantly build a habit by the time it's 80, continue the habit onwards. And do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Jazakallah Hamza. That was very spot on, bro. The only thing that I would add is again why, right? So why purification of ourselves? So Hamza mentioned all the ways that we are attaining purification of ourselves, but again why, right? And we can just quickly talk about why. We can use 2 examples, right? So one is the really famous hadith that I'm not going to quote it directly, but the general gist of the hadith is that if you even have a drop of pride, I think Hamza mentioned this last time as well, if you even have a drop of pride within you, you're not going to enter Jannah, right? Literally a single drop of pride. You could be like the best, most pious human being, but if you're like, oh yeah, I don't commit sin and I pray a lot, that's it. That's definitely more than a drop of pride, and you definitely will not make it into Jannah, right? It doesn't matter how much qiyam you're praying, how much tahajjud you're praying and all that. So that's the first key. The second is that, right. So Sheikh Hamza Yusuf actually, this is a direct quote from something he said, and the gist of it is that he said that you are not really and he was talking about this in relation to getting rid of all your pride, right? And he said you're not prideful or you're not a true believer until you can look at any random person in the world, whether they're Muslim or not, and just assume that they're better than you, right? So he's just talking about like how you just have to assume everyone else or anyone else is better than you. So you're not better than anyone else, and you should constantly be working on yourself. And until you're trying to do that, then you will never be even close to getting, less than that one drop of pride that you're trying to get, right? So I think that that's just like a good idea of how we can just try to attain the best purification of ourselves. But yeah, I think we can move on.
Thank you for that, Omar.
Yeah, and then I think so. The rest of the slide deck is actually from last time as well, where we were talking about. So then the next is the intention of, again, why we're praying Salah and reciting Quran and everything. We can talk about that, or we can talk about like balancing again Deen and Dunya. I think we mentioned these points last time. But whatever you think, Shakil uncle, is best, we can move on to that.
So, Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much, Umair and Hamza, for this. At this time, I would like to open the floor, and if anyone has any questions, please, they can ask so that we can have a dialogue as to why we, if anyone has any questions, so that Umair and Hamza can answer that.
And also,
Yeah,
if there's anything that anyone wants to just jump in and mention.
Exactly. Yeah, I just want to mention last time we had we had an uncle that asked a couple of questions, and it actually elicited a very important discussion. So everyone learned a lot from that. So please ask away, ask any questions.
Yeah, and then if not, then Shakil uncle, we can proceed like however you think is best.
Yeah, I think if not, we are the 5. So I think no one has any questions. We can stop it at this time. And thank you everyone for your time, and thank you both of you for being with us and explaining to us the youth especially. And inshallah, after Eid, we will keep one more program, and maybe we will advertise it more, and so that we can have more people and more youth in there to listen to it.
Inshallah.
Perfect. And Shakil uncle, one more thing. I think that after the lockdown regulations just get a little bit more relaxed, then people are allowed to leave the house more. Umar and I can also come, drive down to your guys' area and give an in-person talk if the youth would be able to relate more and benefit more with that setting.
Yeah, that's a very good idea, Hamza. Thank you so much for that. Yes, inshallah, we will try to arrange something, once things open up, and we can try to see what we can do, so that you guys can come here, and maybe we do a one-day program and we call few more speakers so that we have a good youth program for the day, not just like couple of hours. If you're coming from San Francisco, I would rather have it for a day, and so that we call some other speakers too from the area, and